my name is Candace Johnson, and I work for the Colorado Trust. My job is as a community partner, and I work in the Denver metro area, supporting resident-led grant making. I think it's really important for other community partners and other folks who are working in this strategy to understand is that oftentimes people already have solutions or they already understand what's happening in their community. I think another important piece of understanding is having a deep analysis around power and how power manifests, whether it's our individual personal power or if it's power and how it manifests at the institutional or at the cultural level. Our job as community partners is to support residents in developing and building that power to be able to have an influence and to be able to be at the table, not just to influence the table, but oftentimes to create the table.
Hello, my name is Daniel Stang. I'm a Sheridan resident for all my life. My mother graduated from Sheridan High Schools in 1970. I was born in 1971. I own the house that my grandparents lived in. My grandfather built in 1959. I lived there with my wife and 5 children. I have an older daughter too that graduated here, and I've been a very intimate relationship with the community of Sheridan. I also work for a nonprofit agency called the Sisters of Color United for Education. Got involved with the work from the Colorado Trust very early on when Indira, she contacted me because we have been involved in other community development projects in Denver. And she was like, yeah, we got to do this. We can't do it without Danny. So I never thought about running for school board until being involved. We started last year in May, really started the ball rolling. And as we recognize some of the inequities in the education system, and I myself had even taken my children out of the Sheridan schools since back in 2008, and I was like, yeah, I need to be involved if I'm going to be the change that I want to see in the world. And so I ended up running for school board in November, and I had the most votes in the whole city.
So I'm Bobby Mooney, and I'm relatively new to the Sheridan community. I moved here in 2015, and I started getting involved with community organizing when I felt really interested in building more community here, getting to know my neighbors, and doing something positive to give back to the community. So I also am serving on the Sheridan City Council as a council member representing Ward 3. And I was elected in November, so I'm very new. I'm learning a lot about it. But I wanted to do it because through my experience working with the Colorado Trust Group in Sheridan, I identified how I could be a bit of a bridge from the community group that we were building to sort of the established institution of the city government.
Hello, I'm Dwayne Pride, and my experience thus far has been pretty positive. I've enjoyed, all the different exercises that we've been involved in. I've learned how to present a little differently. Normally, I think you take that for granted. And actually, after watching the way different people are presenting things, there's a lot of family values here. There's a lot of friendship, camaraderie, neighborhood, or the village concept, where it takes a village to raise kids. Where you might have lived up the street and I lived over there and my friends lived over there, and we kind of all just wandered around, but we were never far from home,
My name is Desiree Stang. I've lived in the Sheridan community for 14 years now, and I am a part of the Sheridan Rising Together for Equity. I just started last year, and the whole reason behind me wanting to be a part of it was just to get to know the community. Even though I've been here for so long, I feel like being that it is a small community, we can have a voice if we're all together and more united. Right now what I do is I am in charge of the programs and activities, and we are trying to create some good summer programming or just programming in general for our youth here in Sheridan. There is no other alternative activities here. The kids go to school, and if they join other things, it's usually outside of Sheridan. And our main focus is to try to have more involvement in the community and get these kids staying here so that they are more prideful and love their community and want to be here.
So I think that what's important about the role of a community partner and also the role of the Colorado Trust working in community is that we're trying to reshape and reimagine how big institutions engage with folks at the grassroots level. I think typically when big institutions engage with folks at the grassroots level, there's this belief that the institution has a lot of knowledge to impart onto these community members and to these residents. And that there's this sort of this teaching or this capacity building from the institution to the community. It's not the understanding of what's happening in folks' real lives and in their communities that's missing. Their understanding is fully developed because they live it every single day. What's really missing is one, the analysis collectively, but also the resources to support community members in being able to bring their ideas and their solutions into fruition.
I feel like one important thing that I've learned throughout the practices and the trainings is that no matter like how big the problems are, there's always going to be a solution to these problems. And no matter how many steps we take forward, like there's always going to be steps that we take back. But at the end of the day, we're always going to have to keep pushing forward and keep our goal in mind. And another thing that I learned is that if you really want something, go out and get it. No matter how many barriers are in the way, such as like racial barriers, ethnic barriers, or gender barriers, like there's always going to be a way around it, under it, or over it.
My name is Rosalba Guzman, and I'm a grandmother of the students here in Sheridan, and I want to be involved because I think education is very important. I want my grandkids to get the best education, and I work in public schools for like 20 years. I was a family advocate. I got an invitation and I love to be part of it. I feel like it's a place where you can feel safe to share and also make decisions about the community. How can we better our community? One of the trainings that impact me that I took from Sheridan and Adrian, it was that when the differences that we are, the different cultures, not just cultures, but also sex orientation. And at the beginning, it was very hard for me to accept that. I mean, I'm like, there's only men and there are women. And just to be part of that training and be in that training, it changed my view to see the people, to see differences. And even though we are different, we are the same. We're part of the same group. And I just thought it was very interesting the way the way you explain it to us.
My job is to focus on supporting the residents, developing their understanding of health equity, and being able to at some point make grants to the community. While that's a really important job, I'm not able to really tend to the relationships on the team or tend to the importance of developing the personal mastery to be a good partner in this work, or tend to the need for a rich process for folks to be able to understand the race equity pieces, the health equity pieces, the importance of what it means to be in healthy community together, to be able to have healthy conflict and healthy dialogue together. And so Quetzal Concepts has been really instrumental in being able to create that space and that container for the team to develop the more soft skills of being agents for community change. My job is to help with a lot of the hard skills in terms of like, this is how you work with your fiscal sponsor. This is how you are able to do a data analysis to determine what your top 3 issues are going to be. But I'm not able to help communities make the connection between their own personal lives and their relationships to larger societal structures. And then being able to connect own personal individual change to larger societal change. And so Quetzal concepts has been really important in helping to bridge that gap and to foster that understanding in the community.
My name's Indira Guzman, and I'm a community organizer with the Colorado Trust working in Sheridan. I'm also a mom of 2 wonderful children at the Sheridan School District, and I live here. This is my community. With the dialogue practice, I've witnessed our leadership team in particular, how they were able to learn this new practice and come and implement it with our resident team. They learned how to sit and listen, do active listening, and then respond, but answer the question without really responding to someone else's points of view. And it was really powerful to see our leaders learn this practice and then come back and implement it with our residents. It was amazing. Creo que para nuestra comunidad es importante que nosotros podamos entender de dónde viene la otra persona o por lo menos escuchar sin juzgar tan rápidamente. Muchas veces somos rápidos para juzgar o por qué piensa así o por qué actúa así, pero esta práctica nos ayuda a detenernos, a escuchar activamente y tal vez sentir más empatía sobre lo que la otra persona está sucediendo, y eso es algo que falta en nuestra comunidad.
Another thing that I really like about you guys being in the community is that not only in the resident team meetings, but you took one step forward by being involved in other environments and other settings. Like I know in particular my daughter, who's 14 and goes to Fort Logan Northgate, she was all excited because you were going to be there, and all she talked about is like, Mom, we're going to be working with Adrian and we're going to do this. And she kept just going about the things that you guys are working on.
My name is Anjet Delgado, and I'm an 8th grade student at Fort Logan Northgate. And I pretty much do homework. My life revolves around school. I am very focused on being successful when I grow up. Coming to these meetings with my mom and my sister can be sometimes boring, but like sometimes they can say relevant things about what's going on in our school, in our community. But like to make things more interesting for the like young folks like me is like less talking and more like things that can make kids like interested and want to learn more about what we're talking about.
Hey, my name is Andrea Savage. I am an organizer at Sheridan High School. My role with Sheridan Rising Together for Equity is as an ally. I don't live in Sheridan, but I work and involved with the community here. And so I'm just here to help row the boat towards justice. I believe it's important for youth to organize outside of institutions because I believe that youth, are going to have to do the work in the future, and it's important for them to be able to creatively come up with systems and ways to change and reflect power dynamics and become leaders outside of the ways that we've invented.
At my school, me and my classmates worked with Adrian, Molina, and Tony Ortega to make a beautiful mural, and the poems that we created with Adrian influenced the mural that we later worked on with Tony Ortega. Adrian and Tony are a really big impact on our lives, each one of us, because they really influence that we can express ourselves through any form of art and how we can share our voice in our community.
Lo que he aprendido de nuestra comunidad acerca de cómo Quetzal Concepts ha trabajado con nosotros hemos visto cómo la comunidad se une, cómo podemos ser más, cómo podemos trabajar juntos, reconociendo las diferencias que existen en nuestra comunidad. Como que sabemos que hay diferencias en nuestra comunidad, pero a veces no sabemos en qué nivel están las diferencias. Entonces los entrenamientos que hemos tenido nos hacen reconocer las diferencias y ser más conscientes y tener mejor relación unos con otros.
I believe that diversity in leadership is extremely important when working with young people, because it shows young people that what we do is possible, and that people who look like them or who they identify with can have positions of power. As a queer person, seeing LGBTQ people in the media made me realize that I could exist how I am. And working with young Latinx people, when we had visitors who looked like them speaking about organizing, they recognized that that could be their job, is to organize their community and change their community, which they don't see reflected in other places of power.
I think the information today was really important because we don't have a huge community of a huge Black community here in Sheridan. And if we do, we don't know a lot of it. So I think it's good information for us to be able to reach out to them as well, because there's a huge Latino community here. And I really feel that that type of unity is going to be a lot more helpful with this community. And learning the stuff about the interaction with police officers was extremely helpful, because I don't think people really know about how to interact with them. The other things too I was kind of really interested in is all the policy information, and talking to Candy, having her come in and address a lot of the politics, especially right now with us going through a lot of stuff with the school board. That information is really helpful, so we know exactly how to make changes in our community that will benefit not just my kids, but their kids when they get older, if they decide to stay in this part of town. And so, this stuff with today has helped, because I'm not a very big conflict person. I don't like conflict. I don't like being in those situations. So I tend to avert myself from conflict. So I think this kind of opened the door and let me realize that, I shouldn't be afraid to have these conversations with people, that I should step more forward, that my points and my views do count, and that, what I do say does matter. And the things that I do have in my mind are important, the things I do want to share, and I should be able to go ahead and do that without any fear of having conflict. Being a part of this group has definitely taken me outside of just sitting in my home and thinking, well, I'll just let other people deal with it. So it's really gotten me out in the open so that I can share my goals as well for the community.
It's good that we're talking about rising together as a community, but it's also good that the community can see other diverse people from the greater Denver area and see where they're coming from, especially, we had a woman, we had a Black man, we had a Black woman, and so, there are different people coming in and talking from their point of view, also talking from their community too, because each one of them were representing a different area. And so then it's not just here down south, we're talking about areas in the north, the central, and that's important.
So one of the greatest experiences I've had through this process has been the opportunity to discuss some big concepts, big ideas about social justice and inequity and white privilege in a really meaningful, tangible way within my community. So I've been really lucky to have a lot of experiences in formal education to discuss those concepts with others that share my same educational privilege. And this was a really different experience where I got to talk about these things with people in my community. What I found is that it's not as hard to talk about these things when you're talking about real life experiences that are affecting us right here and now.
At the beginning, it was hard. For years, I worked in the school, tried to get the parents together, and it was almost impossible. Like I had to make 2 meetings, one for the English speaking and one for the Spanish speaking. And it was so hard to get them together. And in this training, I've been learning that it's not impossible. If we are trained to accept our differences, and even though we are different, we still have one goal in common. So I think the training is helping us to get along better, and really to accept us the way we are. I feel like I want to show who I am, and I want to show my roots, the way my grandma taught me how to cook, and just do it with a lot of love. I love to cook.
So when we were first asked to bring one ingredient or one item so we could all cook together, I was like, what the heck? Like, how are we going to make, like, if I bring tomatoes and then someone else brings carrots, like, how am I going to put that together to make it something good? And then I started to think, this is like what happens in our society. Like, everyone has something different about themselves that they could bring to the table, but at the end of the day, it makes like a big like masterpiece. And it's just like, it's something so good and something that we want to experience more often. So after experiencing that and everyone cooking in the kitchen and having like different roles, it was really nice that everyone contributed to something, even though if it was something small or something bigger. We all had a good time, and it was like a fun learning experience.
En el momento que me dijeron, tienes que traer un ingrediente, en lo primero que pensé fue algo que utilizo siempre en mi cocina, como siempre estoy cocinando. O sea, lo primero que dije fue algo, chile, porque es algo importante para mí y siempre cocino con... pero luego estaba pensando, ¿cuánta cantidad tengo que llevar? Tengo que llevar para todos, ¿qué es, cómo va a funcionar? Igual como mi hija, ¿cómo vamos a poner todos esos ingredientes juntos para hacer un platillo que yo me imaginé que no iba a salir bueno? Por las culturas, diferentes culturas, la gente iba a llevar algo diferente, pero estaba yo muy emocionada porque como mamá, y que siempre estoy cocinando, es importante para mí saber lo que otras personas hacen. Cómo utilizan, a lo mejor, como utilizo yo algún ingrediente, otra persona lo utiliza de otra manera. O a lo mejor conocer ingredientes de otra persona que yo nunca utilizo en mi cocina. Así es que lo mío fue todo sobre la cocina. Era lo único que pensé, en que voy a aprender nuevas cosas, voy a aprender cómo cocinar algo nuevo. Y eso me emocionó bastante. El simple hecho de poder cocinar con alguien más y no estar solo en la cocina preparando comida.
Creativity can help people's health by bringing the community together and like just expressing ourselves and what's going through our minds, what's happening, and it can also release like a lot of stress and anxiety and weight that's on their shoulders.
Creativity plays a big role in community development because you have to keep the community, like I said before, the community is as it always was, but you're trying to reinvent the area with resources, it's almost like reinvigorating or urban renewal.
Because the subject matter can be really heavy. There's a lot of pain around oppression and inequality and the tough topics that we are discussing and working on, such as race and gender and class. And so being creative in the process of doing the work to address these issues, it feeds our souls, it keeps us happy along the way, and it makes us feel like the process is worth it and interesting and engaging. Because if it isn't creative, if the process of fighting oppression isn't creative, it's going to feel like oppression as well.
And I think that's what Quetzal concept really helped to bring in is transformation within the individuals, and I see it manifesting in other members in the resident teams because they do some of the workshops that they do around equity. They're very beneficial. They're very inspiring. The way that we look at poetry, the way we use activities, doing theater, doing the constellations and walks and exercises. When we there was my first experience of the group cooking. To me, it was beautiful. I even brought my guitar and it inspired me to just put some music to it. We were all having such a good bonding experience. And, you know, that's, of course, very crucial to the root of community is the foods that we eat and sharing those experiences.
I like how you guys work together. You know, I think you guys are a great team. You seem to follow each other's lead. And to some degree, it's like one theme begets the other theme, and you guys are always kind of working together, so that it's almost like a performance in a way, you know, to where I feel like you know, it's definitely a learning experience.
The personal, cultural, community healing aspects of this work that's been really meaningful is that it allows community members to have a different approach to solutions. So often in this work, we've heard, and I've heard personally, that it's very re-traumatizing to have to relive over and over again a lot of the things that have created these disparities in communities. It's often all about oppression, and about racism, and about classism, and about addressing issues. But when you put a healing lens on this work, it's about restoring your own personal identity, restoring your community. It gets the community out of this mind space of focusing so much on what's deficient, and gives them an opportunity to think about their own personal liberation.
I think that the role of arts and culture within the social work that we're doing is very key. It is a different way of our residents and our community members to connect with the issues that they're dealing with. Too often, all these issues about gentrification and our, you know, racism and things that we truly navigate in our community every day are very, they bog you down. They weigh heavy on you. And when we're able to look at things through our arts or through culture or through just understanding of each other's culture, then we're able to navigate these spaces in a way that's easier and not as burdensome for our community.
That blackout poetry exercise was amazing to me because the way during the beginning, and I had to go through like 4 different pages. The more that I stopped trying to focus or to try to force what was coming out of the pages, then I was a subconscious kind of connection came about where by the time I was on that 3rd and that 4th one, I didn't even realize what words that I was picking or what words that I was crossing out. Just like certain words would just jump out and then I'd leave them there. And then it would formulate this statement or something that would really touch me on a deeper level. And I was like, that was a beautiful, that was a beautiful thing, yeah. And it was really nice to see, it made a connection to something, some emotion, some experience in the past that I maybe had forgotten, that maybe I wasn't aware that was still there. You know, I worked through a lot of my own, being in recovery for 9 years and having gone through a lot of my own personal demons and gotten rid of a lot of bad negative activities and negative behaviors. But then they come out and I'm like, oh, hey, that word came out of there, you know, and it really, it's some of those things I still need to work on. I still need to bring into the work that we're doing.
Algo una actividad que hicimos era el blackout poetry. Cuando estaba joven siempre me gustó la poesía y siempre, creo que hasta la fecha, pero ya no tengo tanto tiempo de leer. Pero cuando dijeron poesía, fue lo que imaginé, poesía. Pero no entendía lo que era el concepto, qué es lo que estábamos buscando con eso. Al principio fue algo confuso para mí, pero luego cuando empecé a hacerlo, todo tomó sentido. Todo tomó sentido al momento que estaba leyendo. estaba conectando con lo que estaba leyendo.
For me, it was a nice experience because the things that I was feeling at that moment, it like became reality and like was on the paper, and you physically, like, it was kind of weird how it connected, because like in my mind I was like, oh wait, these words, like how are they gonna connect? But then it was like a sentence or something that like described like what I was feeling at that moment. So I was like, it's crazy how different things work in life, where like you have like a paper full of words and only certain words stick out to you, and then it becomes like something that you're feeling or something that you possess or that you love. So it was really cool to experience that.
So later on, reflecting later with the rest of the group too, what we noticed is that the way that the blackout poetry was bringing out ideas and emotions and experiences from within us individually, we were able then to share those experiences, and we were able to relate and bond a little bit better, but also help us to focus on some of the root causes and some of the other greater issues that we're trying to work together as a team. And I think that blackout poetry really helped because it gives a different inspiration. It kind of tries to get us out of our mental, organized, logical thinking and bring us down to like a heart-centered, like emotional, and the way that we, the deeper understandings that we have and the desires and the ambitions.
I think the most impactful exercise was the Constellations exercise, where we were able to look at the connections between past historical events, like contemporary events, and to help residents understand that oftentimes history is just repeating itself, that we're dealing with the same sort of issues. They're just in they have a different context. And so I think what was really impactful about Constellations was that community members are able to like actually use their bodies to express past events and future events. So for instance, we did, people were using their bodies to experience or express the transatlantic slave trade. And then other folks were using their bodies to experience and express mass incarceration. And those two events in history are very much connected, but in the process of acting them out and being able to embody those events, I think that people were able to make deep connections and to understand that there are threads between the past and the present that are still really relevant today. Yeah.
Well, we did Constellations Theater, and we were broken up into different groups, some past, some future, some present, historical kind of systems. I played the role of the Republican, and there was other roles, and I really felt uncomfortable at first because I have a very liberal point of view. I have family members that are Republicans that we don't even, it's that odd Thanksgiving dinner meal, that everybody's so familiar with because of our political views, and our discussions are always arguments. I had to come into this role of someone who I usually do not identify with. And I wasn't sure where this thing was going. There was all these different people, different roles, and everyone started to take on their role.
I was able to witness more of that interaction and of the action of our residents really getting into character and trying to figure out how it was to live in that time and how it was to really play that role and understand maybe where in history did we go wrong and find solutions way back then for the issues that we have now. So it was amazing to see that collaboration within our residents. También vi cómo nuestros residentes pudieron sentirse más unidos y ver cómo entender más y tener empatía acerca de las situaciones que unos u otros estaban viviendo.
It was really surprising to me. When I first heard about it, as it was described to us what we were going to do, I originally was kind of skeptical. I felt like this doesn't make any sense. This is kind of nonsense. What do you mean we're going to pretend to be historical characters from all different time periods, from all different places? I felt like I didn't know enough about the historical context to be able to accurately portray what I was being asked to act out. And I just felt originally that it wasn't going to be a good use of our time. But when I participated in the activity itself, those original concepts just went right out of my mind because it was such a neat experience. And
I had kind of moved to the side, but then I was leaving and they pulled me in there like, everybody, let's all get together. And it was like, how did this turn into, it was a beautiful experience.
so surprising how it actually worked beautifully. It worked perfectly to have these really different characters from really different times interacting, and yeah, maybe it wasn't 100% historically accurate, but it worked. The characters presented were diverse enough and known enough that it was easy for us to jump into those roles and play those parts and start interacting in really creative, different ways than I would have ever expected. And at the end, it all made sense. It was really educational and fun.
Thinking about our future and really putting a vision behind what we want to see out of this process, and how is it that we want to see our community in 10, 15, 20 years. And I remember just feeling really inspired with how our community was really thinking about what our wins are going to look like and how that's going to really impact our children, maybe even our grandchildren. So
In order to have a safe space, everyone needs to be able to speak what's on their mind freely without being judged or being afraid of what others are going to think of them. The space that we have here is super confidential, so we won't have to worry about what's happening here. We'll get out to someone else.
The most valuable tool you bring to the process is an open mind, because I've been blown away by how much my thinking or my opinions have changed just by really listening to my fellow resident team members.
Well, for future teams and people that are doing this work, it's really it's not a very fast. It takes a lot of patience. It's not a process that you can go through very quickly and expect a big change.
Well, my advice for other communities to get grants and things like we're doing here is to one, be as open as possible.
The leadership team having more planning time and the kind of guidance from Quetzal Concepts, from consultants, from the trust have been instrumental in going through those steps, taking through processes, even if it feels like at one moment, how is this really involved with what we're doing? Take the time to go through the process, because you're going to come out the other end with an enlightened and a new perspective about it, and another way to look at the situation, and then identify root causes, root issues.
This is just one big, month-to-month process of us pulling together all these ideas to hopefully write a final presentation, something that is acceptable to, the trust.
Don't give up. Keep going, even though you feel like you might not be making any changes. People are recognizing that you're trying to make changes. And I think that is one of the most important things, is that even though you feel like you're not, people see that you are and that you're trying. And make sure that your goal is always there, that you see the light at the end, because there is one.
Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and make a change.
Regardless of all of the difficulties this process has brought to the surface, it's still a very worthwhile endeavor, because for the first time we're putting real dollars, 6 figures, humongous resources into the hands of residents. And that within itself is communicating a level of trust that we have with the community. And my job is also to help to make sure that they can trust us back. And so it's this ongoing process of sort of relearning what it means to hold power and to hold resources and share resources as an institution. But I think for the residents, it's also a relearning of how to be in a healthy relationship with large institutions. And I think that is revolutionary.
diablo lo hizo cagar.